call the council meeting to order. Would you please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll, please.
Trustee Bellinger. Here. Trustee Belkowski. Trustee Patient. Here. Trustee Beeson.
Yes.
Trustee Pridemore. Here. Trustee Bertoli.
Here.
President Dilbert.
Here.
Treasurer Wowzek. CM. Mitchell is absent. And Attorney Kelly.
Here. Approval of agenda. There's one addition I'd like to make after the resolutions. A request presentation from the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce. I would like to insert in there just before you all know.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented, or as amended.
Second.
We probably moved and supported that we approve the agenda as amended. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comment on the agenda.
Real quick, I do see that you guys are seeking, it appears that you're going to be seeking bids for the demolition on the Elk Street. Communicated with some of you, going to be, as code enforcement officer, I've had communications with a couple other property owners in the village who have expressed difficulty in finding contractors, though they are claiming to be cooperative and agree that they need to demolish. One is a house and one is a large shed on their properties. Both in high visibility areas, one next to the school administrative building, one is on Haven Ridge right up along as many people make their way up to Merritt Academy. They want to demolish it, they can't find contractors, and they're willing to give their consent. I have one of them in an email already, the other one verbally and through text. It says so, but he hasn't given me an email yet, but I can get that probably in the next day or two. I was hoping to have it tonight. But if we could include like a short little blurb on RFP or whatever you guys announcement, however you guys decide to put it out there. They're willing to share their name and phone number and whatnot. If you guys could pass that contact information along and say, hey, by the way, I know you're bidding on this property on Elk Street, but we have a couple more people that you might be interested in. Here's our phone number. That'd be great because they claim that they acknowledge it, they want to get it done, but they claim they can't get contractors. So if we can have contractors go to them, give them quotes, it can only help. So I really request you guys to do that. I can talk more on that if you want on that agenda item. And then I hope you guys give me the opportunity to talk on the two agenda items when you're considering taking people to court. I definitely suggest we go to court on the one, the old funeral home. I definitely do not suggest going to court on the other one.
Public comment on the agenda. Approval of minutes from the July 14th meeting.
I have some amendments to add. Under public comments, it says nobody spoke, but 2 people did. Calls from the floor, 3 people spoke. I believe we had code enforcement. I had it on my notes, but the guy for the village site spoke. And then calls from the table, Trustee Pridemore spoke. And under president's items, President's items D, one of the contingencies was that Lennox would pay half of the fireworks. That wasn't in the minutes. And then President item F, there was a motion to refuse the properties.
Do you have these corrections written down?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. You heard the correction that has been offered by Mr. Bertoli.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Support.
Is properly moved and supported that we approve the July 14th minutes as amended. Any questions on the motion?
Can we have the clerk amend those minutes and send us copies?
Yes. Question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and supported that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Questions on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Bellinger? Yes. Trustee Pridmore?
Yes.
Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
Trustee Hatchett? Trustee Newsom?
Yes.
President Dilbert?
Yes. President items. Resolutions. Who are we doing first? Mr. Lyson?
First we'll do, we'll have resolution, it'll be, let me just open them up here. First, we're gonna go with the fire department. So it'll be resolution 2020-016, a resolution honoring the New Haven Fire Department for their heroics during a fire at Pinewood Apartments. You want me to go ahead and read through?
Yes.
Whereas the Village of New Haven would like to extend a sincere tribute of gratitude to the New Haven Fire Department for their bravery in responding to the fire at Pinewood Apartments on the morning of June 25th, 2020. And whereas Assistant Chief Daniel Steer, Captain William Mussolini, Lieutenant William Goward, Sergeant Derek Wagner, Firefighter Christopher McArtland, Firefighter Christopher McGuffin, EMT Mark Holly, and Probationary Firefighter Tara Johns all responded to the scene of the fire. And whereas, thanks to their heroic efforts, the previously mentioned team successfully rescued and saved 2 children and an adult female from the 2nd floor of the burning building. And whereas the Village of New Haven Council wishes to acknowledge and congratulate the aforementioned team for their heroics and bravery exhibited on June 25th. And now, therefore, be it resolved that on behalf of the residents of the Village of New Haven, the Village Council hereby formally recognizes and expresses their most sincere appreciation, praise, and gratitude to the New Haven Fire Department for their courage and heroics exhibited while responding to the Pinewood Apartments fire.
You've heard the resolution as read.
I move to adopt resolution 20-016, a resolution honoring the New Haven Fire Department.
Second.
Been properly moved and supported that we adopt resolution 2020-016, honoring the New Haven Fire Department. Any questions on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
Trustee Pridmore?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Hatchett?
Yes.
Trustee Newsom?
Yes.
President Dilbert?
Yes. Gentlemen, I think there's a lady, she's not here. Tara? Congratulations, good job on that date. I'm sure that family, I don't know if you guys had any contact. What's the latest on the small one? Know any?
No.
Okay. Congratulations and excellent job. Chief, say something to us.
What's that?
Have a few words.
Well, I think you've said most of it, all of it. They went, they did their job, and what they trained to do. The outcome was good. Everyone survived, everyone got out of the hospital. And I know that you're going to also recognize, but if the deputy on duty, which is here, hadn't been paying attention, the outcome wouldn't have been what it was. He was in the right spot, at the right time, paying attention. How we ever noticed the smoke, because it was all the way down on the, you know where it How he ever noticed it, I don't know. But the point is, he did. If it wasn't for him, we couldn't have done what we did, because he was paying attention to others. And so I just want to congratulate him. Other than that, thank you for the resolution, thank you for the compliments, and we're here for you, anything you need, so.
I think we got a couple other things
I
coming
do.
from our state rep and our county commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honorable council members, as Jeff Eric, state representative,
And I'm Phil Craft, your county commissioner.
is that the village resolution really covered everything, so we're just saying that we both come up with tributes, myself, a special tribute therefore this document is signed and dedicated to honor and thank the New Haven Fire Department and their crew for their bravery and devotion to serve us. I say it's very special, it's very kind of personal to me. I've been a former firefighter, paramedic, and actually a number of the people here that I see, I've known for years in the fire EMS world, and I expect nothing less of the performance that day. They're awesome. So I said, this is signed by myself and Senator Lucio, who's the Senator of the Congress of New Haven. So happy to present that. Chief,
Thank you. Photo album.
somewhere there.
I'm right here.
We're all smiling.
Smile.
Thank you, sir.
And my tribute also is it's very similar. It's from the Macomb County Board of Commissioners, and we just wanted to honor the service of all of our first responders. And thank you for all that you do. It's a privilege having you guys serve our community, and so honored to present this to you guys today. Congratulations, and thank you all.
On behalf of all the firefighters here, thank you very much. But I would shake your hand, but we violated something.
I know this one.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next up, we have resolution will be for the EMS, resolution 2020-014, a resolution honoring Richmond Lennox EMS for their heroics during a fire at Pinewood Apartments. So whereas Jeffrey White, Dennis Spence, I'm going to butcher this last name, I sincerely apologize, Shelley Szymanski, Nicole Wergrau, Kayla Roberge, Wayne Culver, Marty Hartway, Spencer White, Kevin Egley, Marianne McLeod, and Alexandra Leankind responded to the scene of the fire while to offer first aid and life support. And whereas thanks to their heroic efforts, the previously mentioned team successfully treated multiple members of the first responders team and victims of the fire for smoke inhalation, heat exhaustion, while helping to prevent any casualties as a result of the fire. And whereas the Village of New Haven Council wishes to acknowledge the aforementioned team, now therefore be it resolved that on behalf of the residents of the Village of New Haven, the Village Council hereby formally recognizes and expresses their most sincere appreciation, praise, and gratitude to Richmond Lennox EMS for their courage and heroics exhibited while responding to the Pinewood Apartments fire.
I move to adopt resolution 20-014, a resolution honoring Richmond Lennox EMS.
Probably moved and supported that we adopt resolution 2020-014 honoring Richmond Lennox EMS. Any questions on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
Trustee Kreisler?
Yes.
Trustee Toshit?
Yes.
Trustee Neeson?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger? Yes. Trustee Silver?
Yes. Jeff, come on up and say something.
I never know what to say when a group of our citizens takes time to honor us for doing our job. Simply, on that morning, we were fortunate to have the opportunity to really do our job, thanks in no small part to, as I recall, the deputy sitting here in the front row, who really identified that fire, got it called in, got us all on the way, and went in then absent the normal protective equipment that folks might wear to go on a fire and knock the fire down to the point that the children and the mother could in fact be safe and treated by our crew. So I'm humbled to be in his presence tonight, and really think that he deserves a vast majority of this evening's recognition. Having said that, on behalf of all of us at EMS, we had 5 of our 7 ambulances that this community owns at that scene that day, and 10 of our paramedics. I couldn't be prouder of them, and couldn't be prouder of having the opportunity to work side by side with the fire department in what we call the area of triage, treatment, and transportation of the victims to the hospital. I think it'd be worthwhile to just make a quick shout out as well to, I think it was that morning or the morning before, McLaren Macomb's Trauma Center had opened their new ER. Now, if you can imagine opening a new ER and then being inundated with an event like this, I know it put them under an incredible amount of stress, and while I did not get down to the hospital, my understanding was the doctors and nurses there did a tremendous job in caring for these folks, and then getting the children shipped on down to Children's Hospital in the truck. So with that, thank you again for recognizing us. We're always here for you, and we hope we don't have too many of these incidents. And when we do, we hope we have sheriff's deputies, firefighters, and paramedics ready to answer the call. Thank you.
Honorable President, council members, our state representative, I said I wanted to share in our appreciation for EMS's work. If you think about this, as we all stayed here with masks on and with this pandemic, doesn't matter if it's a pandemic, apartment fire, helping someone off the floor, just needs help. EMS, our EMS has been there, and I really appreciate all of you in the community. So again, this tribute also acknowledges them, signed by myself and Lucio.
Richmond, Lennox, EMS, you guys are an incredible asset to this community. I've known Jeff a long time, and it's just been year after year of improvement with you guys. The job you guys do is incredible. Keep up the good work. And again, I have a tribute from the Board of Commissioners to honor. Really appreciate you sit that day.
I know. Kind of a funny position to be in. All right. Next up, we have Resolution 20-0015, a resolution honoring the Macomb County Sheriff's Department for their heroics during the fire at Pinewood Apartments. Whereas Sheriff Deputy Gerald Romano spotted the fire during a routine patrol of the village, and whereas Sheriff Deputy Jason Bone and Sheriff Deputy Clifton Morgan Sr. responded to the scene of the fire while supported by Macomb County Dispatcher Caitlin Welch. And whereas, thanks to their heroic efforts, the previously mentioned team successfully suppressed the fire using handheld fire extinguishers and ultimately saved the child from the burning building. And whereas the Village of New Haven Council wishes to acknowledge and congratulate the aforementioned team for their heroics and bravery exhibited on June 25th. Now therefore be it resolved that on behalf of the residents of the Village of New Haven, the Village Council hereby formally recognizes and expresses the most sincere appreciation, praise, and gratitude to the Macomb County Sheriff's Department for their courage and heroics exhibited while responding to the Pinewood Apartments fire.
I move to adopt Resolution 20-015, a resolution honoring the Macomb County Sheriff's Department.
Support.
Been properly moved and supported that we adopt Resolution 2020-015, honoring the Macomb County Sheriff's Department. Questions on the motion? Roll please.
Councilor Paul?
Yes.
Trustee Mellinger? Yes. Trustee Hatcher?
Yes.
Trustee Tyson?
Yes.
Trustee Kreisler?
Yes.
President Tolbert?
Yes.
Again, thank you. Well, President, council members, and want to share our appreciation of our law enforcement. I think that there's always been this joke about the rivalry between law enforcement and fire. It's just kind of a joke because in reality, because when the going gets tough, there's a response. You can see how they all come together in service to the community. So I appreciate all that they did. As I said, the world effort. As I said, many familiar faces here, and the people that have worked together. And you look across all these groups, and people that have worked together in this community for years. I don't think many of the faces you saw, I said, actually, with law enforcement, EMS, and fire, a lot of familiar faces of people who are here in the community serving and making sure New Haven is safe. So again, so thank you. We do have this tribute game tonight for myself and Senator Lucido. Thank you for letting us be a part and congratulate and appreciate your service. Sometimes so that you'll get the appreciation you deserve for what you do on a daily basis.
I have a tribute from the Board of Commissioners, and I'm just honored to be in a county where we have such dedicated deputies like you guys. And the partnership between the county and the Village of New Haven has been a good one. It's been a positive one, and this is just another example of that. And I want to thank you gentlemen so much for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
I would have brought butter if I was known he was going to be here. I would have let you hang on to him for me.
Can I get the exhibit chamber to come up, please?
Good evening, President Gilbert and trustees of New Haven, Village of New Haven. I'm Kathy Craig, I'm the Executive Director of the Integrated Chamber of Commerce. And we are a nonprofit organization for the businesses in the integrated community, in which we are privileged to be able to serve New Haven as your Chamber of Commerce. COVID has done quite a number on a lot of events that in all of Michigan. And this past weekend, we were supposed to have our biggest community event, which was Music by the Bay. We made some adjustments, went out with all of the guidelines per the governor's orders to still continue to hold on to the event. And a few days before, we were asked to cancel the event. So we ended up having to cancel the event. But it wasn't just the event. We had also an idol contest that we were doing, and we had contestants. And we felt that we still owed the contestants the opportunity to perform and win their prizes and why they were doing that. And we would like permission if we could please hold just the idol contest from 5 to 8 p.m. on September 12th here in New Haven at the New Haven Community Park. And if we have any questions, Chris is here and I'm here to answer.
And thank you all for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
We've been successfully hosting our snow rolls, our movies in the park, and our concerts in the park. We've painted circles out in the lawn, and our residents and visitors have been occupying the circles, staying away from each other, and things have gone really well. And when Captain first approached me with this, you know, I didn't see a problem in it. The only thing that I did ask her was that, that we would not host the beer tent. Because that creates a whole different group of problems. And they said that they wouldn't, but they didn't even, they spot to host the finals for the idol competition.
And might I add, President, that this is truly a local event. Two of our finalists are from New Haven.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So I asked them to come to council and make this formal request. I personally don't see a problem with it. It's pretty much a daytime event, 5 to 8. I think it's a good PR opportunity between the village and the surrounding areas. I'm sure we'll have a few visitors come in and take a look at what we see, what we do, and how we do it, and how we successfully have done it this summer. So with that being said, what's the pleasure?
What was the date that, this is going to be?
September 12th.
Correct.
Now, will you see the need for any additional protocols to ensure the safety of people that attend? I mean, we've had smaller events, like the slow rolling music in the Who's in the Park. I'm anticipating this might draw more.
Well, we're actually expecting, I would say, about the same amount of people as you have on your Friday night concerts.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have sanitizers available at the check-in table. We do go through a lot of precautions with our singers. They have to sanitize, and we sanitize the microphones, make sure there's no danger there to the contestants themselves. But we could gladly add some more sanitizing stations around the park if we want us to.
Well, if you already have kind of a number in mind in advance of what we've been doing.
I don't anticipate it to be any bigger than the Friday night concerts.
Okay.
Chris was out Friday for his last concert, and Catherine was out for the movie.
Yes.
So they kind of see how we set it up with the circles and how we're spaced out pretty good.
Yes.
I make a motion that we permit the Anchor Bay Chamber to hold their idol contest in our park.
Support it. The properly moved and supported that the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce be allowed to host their idol finals at Community Park on September 12th from 5
To 8.
to 8 p.m. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The officers from Joe and Joe are here.
Well, good evening. My name is Mike Roca, and this is Chrissy Day. We're here to present the audit results for the year ended March 31, 2020. So you should have a packet, fairly slim packet that is just a brief overview of how the year went. I'm going to start on page 2 and talk about the audit opinion, which is what you're looking for when you get an audit done. So let's talk a little bit about what an audit is first. First, it can only be performed by a licensed CPA firm. It offers the highest level of assurance on your financial statements, and management's responsibility is to ensure the fair presentation and and a level of internal controls such that fraud would be detected or corrected in a timely manner. Our responsibility is to perform a risk assessment on those controls and develop procedures in order to audit those balances. So our opinion is an unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. That's really what you're looking for when you get an audit, is an unmodified opinion. Moving along to page 3, this is a snapshot of the various categories of revenues in your general fund. I'd like to point out a few things. So one thing that probably is no surprise to anybody, property taxes make up the vast majority of your revenues, and they were up about 2% in the general fund year over year. Your state shared revenues are the next largest category, and that actually saw a significant decline, but that would be because during fiscal year 19, a large payment was received to catch up from state revenues that were owed from prior years. Equipment rental was down slightly, and the other revenues were consistent. On page 4, this is a similar graph, but for the expenditures of the general fund. Again, no surprise, majority of the expenses go toward public safety, and that would primarily be the police department, the contract with Macomb County for police. This was up 4% during the year due to contract increase. The next largest is general government, which was down slightly, and that would be because during fiscal 19, there was 3 audits performed, if you recall, to catch it up. The recreation and culture section was up slightly due to the 150th anniversary festival. And you'll see in the red there, the transfers out of $185,000. That was to help the sewer fund get closer to a positive, unrestricted net position. Page 5 will show you trend lines over the past 5 years of your general fund revenue and expenditures. You will see that for years 16, 17, and 18, the expenditures were exceeding the revenues, which may be a little bit of a surprise. And then you see a large spike in revenues in 2019. That goes back to the state shared revenues being caught up in that year to help fill the gap. And then you see revenues come down in 2020 as your revenue payments from the state were back to normal. Then you see it's normalizing and revenues are exceeding the expenditures, and so you're in a good place. Next page is page 6, a brief discussion on the water operations. Year over year, the revenues and expenditures have been fairly close for the past 5 years, and again, the revenues exceeded the expenditures, which just go to indicate that the rates are meeting operating costs. Page 5 is on sewer operations, and although the sewer fund is in deficit, you can see over the past several years the operating side of it is actually going quite well, and that deficit has been being reduced year over year. This year there was actually a net operating income of almost $500,000, and that includes depreciation expense of over $200,000, as well as there was also the additional transfer in that's not included in that number. So the sewer fund continues to improve. Moving along to page 8, this is a snapshot, a 5-year trend of the general fund balance, and you'll see 2016, you're back to about the 2016 level. It took a little bit of a dip in 18 and was back up with the revenues received from state shared revenues in 19. So the fund balance here is a very healthy fund balance. It actually represents about 75% of your annual operating expenses, which is actually quite high. The MGFOA actually recommends somewhere between 15 and 25%. So you have a lot of room to really use some of those funds. And I know that a significant amount has been being transferred year over year to the sewer fund to help with that deficit. The next page is the water fund's unrestricted net position for the last 5 years. That has slowly been climbing, and it's on a good trend. I don't have a lot to say about that, but on the next page, the sewer fund, I'm happy to announce there's been excellent progress over the past several years to help bring that out of deficit. As I previously mentioned, this year the deficit was reduced by about $330,000. That was primarily from the operating surplus I mentioned, as well as being supplemented by that $185,000 transfer from the general fund. I suggest continuing aggressive efforts to reduce that deficit, including with transfers from the general fund. Now, Chrissy's going to make you aware of some significant communications that we're required to report. Thank you.
All right, as like previously stated, I'm Chrissy Day, and I'm going to be going over the communication letter, which is this packet included with your reports. And as well as that, in section 7 of the report, there is the gas letter, which will identify some of the findings we had in the audit. So I will start with that first. So if you look at section 7, this is our required gas letters, which is government auditing standards. So there were a couple matters that we identified during the audit. The one Mike kind of touched on was the deficit fund position for the sewer. Again, that is doing way better than it has been, $300,000 reduction this year. So we're required to note that that is still an issue, but the deficit elimination plans are being submitted, and that should be a finding until that deficit is eliminated completely. Another issue we found was just non-compliance. Final budget amendment was not done prior to fiscal year end, which is a state requirement. This kind of had to do with all of the pandemic issues going on, so Sandy is aware of this, and you guys will be approving it before year ends now. Next, some of the other issues we found, only one other management comment and recommendation. This will be at the back of this governance letter. A couple unallowable expenditures, and we were looking at credit card transactions. Sales tax was paid on a couple of them, which technically is not allowed for governmental entities. So nothing significant, just something we're required to communicate, and you should try and eliminate those when making purchases for the city, or the village, sorry. So yeah, Sandy did a great job. We want to send our thanks to her and her team. She made it really smooth audit process. Everything went great as far as us getting in and getting out. And we want to thank you guys for continuing the relationship and allowing us to be your auditors. So now I'll take any questions that you guys might have.
This is just a minor one, but on the unallowable expenditures, the sales tax, is there a best practice we should be following to avoid doing that?
Typically, it's one of those things where it's difficult if you're using a credit card to say go to Meijer or I don't know, like Home Depot to do purchases. It's difficult to monitor. You know, you can get charged sales tax. You could always call customer service, try and get it taken off, let them know you're a municipality. That's one of the harder things with the credit cards. As far as other ones like big purchases, you want to make sure you're doing major repairs and that kind of thing. Through the PO approval process and invoices, make sure you're not paying exorbitant amounts of sales tax, because that can't fly and the higher your expenditure is. So it's one of those things we have to communicate, and we know things like that happen, but state law says that that technically is not allowed for you guys to pay, so.
Is it pretty common that most municipalities run into that issue, or?
Yeah, I'd say I see it on, especially with the credit card testing a lot. I mean, you know, you go to Home Depot, the clerk's not gonna, they're gonna be like, well, I'm charging you the sales tax, you know, but it's just one of those things to be aware of and at least say something, try and get it taken off, but yeah, it's one of the common hurdles, I would say.
Do we know what type of expenditures it was that we incurred the sales tax on, generally speaking?
I would have to look. I know in the past we've had this comment, and it's usually on like supplies. You know, you have something that breaks, you have to go to Home Depot, you have to go to Meijer, get something to fix it. So it's usually just routine, really small expenses that it's at. It's not anything huge where you're paying thousands of dollars in sales tax or anything like that.
On the fund balance, what was the percentage, the kind of ballpark recommendation for most communities?
So they typically recommend 15 to 25%, but that can, you know, 15% isn't necessarily good for your village, nor is 25% necessarily, because you have to consider the size you are. If you're a huge municipality, you know, 15% might be fine because that might be $15 million, whereas 15% for your annual expenses would be closer to about 200,000. So I would say you'd want to be around the 25 or higher still would be appropriate in my mind, but 75% is very high.
Okay. And we at 75?
75% of annual expenditures, yes.
Okay.
Questions? I think we identified, did we not tell me the sales tax issue? Wasn't it part of the
Yes.
150th or something, there was something about it, Gordon?
No, it's like you said, it's a small purchases that we kind of figure out. It's not a huge exorbitant amount that we're paying tax on. I mean,
No.
everybody knows that we're not supposed to, but I'm not gonna send somebody to go find, get 50 cents back, you know? So, they can tell us, I'm sorry, you can tell them all the time, but.
Yeah, it's the
But-
cost benefit, I know, it's not always
Yeah.
feasible, so.
I mean, do we eventually get in trouble for having that, or is it just kind of one of those things that'll show up?
Yeah, it's one of the things when we keep reporting to you guys, it's never gonna be a finding like the level that the deficit was or not having your budget passed unless it becomes a material. So, I mean, if we're talking, if it starts climbing into thousands of dollars that you're paying on a large purchase, then sure, but other than that,
Everybody's aware that we're not supposed to, you know, so.
yeah.
It's gotta be really hard to go to anywhere for, like, I can imagine Parks and Rec, anytime they go to get supplies.
Parks and Rec is the hardest one, and sometimes our fire department there look to get stuff too, but we all know that, and we try not to, you know, and if it's more than we think we should, we go after it and take, we have tax exempt forms that we take. We have, tax, like Staples, we tax for tax exempt and all that stuff, so we have everything in place that we need to, it's just the stuff that we don't have set up is what we run into a problem, so it's not as bad as you keep on saying, so.
And I will say, most of the expenditures we did test, if they were larger purchases on the credit card, they did have the tax exempt form or, you
Yeah.
know, something where it was taken off and not charged. So it's just those small ones. Like I said, the clerk at Meyer or Home Depot is not going to really be able to help you out with that. So,
We have an account set up at Home Depot and Staples, so we don't get charged taxes.
okay, so maybe for other
But
stores, you
it's
know,
small
similar,
thing, when something
right?
comes up unexpected at a store that we normally don't patronize,
Yeah.
that's when we run into the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Good seeing you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Oh, your purse. Thanks. I would have been back.
All right, bye, you guys, I'm next, so, thanks for coming. Thanks.
Resolution 20-013, sewer deficit elimination.
So, since they said stuff about our sewer debt, I would like to say I'm being proactive for once. I have put in the reporting for the F-65 report, and they will be sending me a letter here soon telling me that I have to do a sewer deficit elimination plan. So, like I said, I'm proactive, and I got it ready, and I want to, if you could approve it, so now you'll have it ready when I receive that letter. So, do you guys have any questions about this? I know I gave it to you last time. As you can see by our unrestricted net position, that we're at 709,000 in the deficit, and we're hoping by next year that we can be out of it. So I want to take a look at it at the end of this fiscal year to see how we stand too, if we can even get rid of it. Because like Michael was saying, we have 75% in our operating costs in the general fund, we will be able to take care of this and get this over with sooner. So I mean, we have a lot of stuff coming up in the year, maybe we can get rid of this faster than we think. So with that being said, I hope you can approve this for me. Any questions?
So we have, it looks like 2023, it will be complete, but it could possibly be sooner.
Yes. With our growth waves going, that money we're collecting for sewer debt, we can start looking at getting this taken care of that stuff.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 20-13, the sewer deficit elimination plan.
Support.
Been properly moved and supported, that we adopt resolution 20-013 pertaining to our sewer fund deficit elimination plan. Any questions on the motion? Roll
Yes.
Trustee Bertoli?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Hopper? President Gilbert?
Yes. We've gotten court approval to demolish a home at 30701 Elm Street, and we just need permission to put together the bid specs and post it on the committee. It's a home that's we've been chasing this property for a few years now.
You're just looking for us to make a motion for it, or
Yes, to approve us,
The RFQ.
to do the RFP?
get RFP, yeah.
And then I think our code enforcement officer had mentioned to me previously about wanting to add some verbiage about some residents in the village.
I was not gonna include that verbiage, because I don't want that to be misconstrued that we're gonna be responsible for it. When we get the bids, we can share the bid contractors with the residents.
Okay.
Give them the contact information so they can make contact on their own.
Okay.
I make a motion that we bid an RFP for demolition on the Mitten website for 30701.
Support.
Been properly moved and supported that we get an RFP for the demolition of 3070701 Elk Street. There's a balance left over from our previous demolition budget of a few years ago. So there's I don't know what the bids are gonna come in at, but what's left over from them may very well cover this.
Like a credit?
No, we had put $50,000 in a demolition kitty 3 or 4 years ago when we took down the old church and we took down a couple of properties. But there's still a balance in that demolition.
Right, to the positive though.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we'll get the bids and see where they fall. Any question on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public nuisance, 58611 Main Street. I think that is the old funeral home. Mr. Evanchuk was before us last month. He made some very positive comments in responses to some questions. And since then, he has backpedaled and literally has done nothing. And I am asking council to approve following in circuit court action against Mr. Evanchuk.
Dan, you went over to the property, right?
Yesterday, yeah.
Did you see?
Get up there and
Yeah, please.
So yeah, as of yesterday, did a site visit, and the roof is still sagging in multiple areas. The roof overhang of the soffits is disintegrated and collapsing, drooping, dropping, whatever you want to call it. Peeling paint over a lot of the exterior. The southern exposure, which was promised to be boarded up and secured and whatnot, is still completely open to the elements. That's like where the back portion previously got demolished and where it lets up to the existing steel structure there. There's a large chunk of it, I think in the pictures that I sent council, still fully exposed. Mr. Evanchuk said that he was going to take care of that at his meeting. The gutter was still dangling down, nearly touching the ground if it wasn't even touching the ground. A lot of miscellaneous debris still on the side and in the back of the house. A lot of miscellaneous debris shoved back along the property line next to the neighboring lot. I could go on, and then there's, I've had some conversations through calls and shared information with, for grants and loans through the county with Mr. Evanchuk. I've asked him if he applied for them. Didn't get a response until literally just a couple hours ago, claiming that, acknowledging that he got it, but not confirming that he got it. Yeah, I definitely think this one needs to go to circuit court. Whether it's inability or unwillingness, it's there there has been light landscaping to his credit. That's, sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but that's all I noticed of significance.
I think we need to pursue this. I think this is the only way that we're going to get some real correction.
Can I say just a bit?
Please do.
Is it okay if I just, if I don't have a loud voice, but can you hear me? Yeah, I just suffering from a lot of anxieties right now, but, yeah, if you go by the yard, you'll see that the yard is pretty much cleaned up. I've got, some big logs and some, debris that, it's gotta be taken care of, burned, or taken out by the, removal. But other than that, the yard's looking pretty good. I got a lot of neighbors and people stopping by and commenting on the improvement. He's right about, you know, the peeling paint and everything. After I got the yard cleaned up for the most part, I got up on a ladder on the roof and, excuse me, and when I was trying to step down, coming back down just to survey the roof and everything like that, the ladder was just on, you know, up against the blacktop. And when I hit the top rung of the ladder, it just shot up from underneath me, and I came all the way down on the blacktop, and that kind of laid me up. I just sprawled out and, you know, just kind of wiggled my fingers and my toes and my ankles and my wrists to make sure I was okay. And I just said, God, thank you, Lord, it could have been worse. But I had I wasn't sure if it was fractured or if it was just a severe sprain, but I think, you know, it took about a week for the swelling to go down on my ankle, and I could only get around on crutches for about a week. Wrist, fingers swelled up. They're a lot better, but for the last 3 weeks, I've been pretty much laid up. I've just been getting back outside and getting stuff done again. There has been some improvement. Rather than coming after my house, if you just give me more time and just watch and see if the improvement just continues, because that's really what you want, isn't it? Don't you want to see everything being rectified?
Yeah, but you know, we've been hearing this story for about 4 or 5 years now. It's old.
Well, just you've been seeing some improvement. Just
we need to get you in front of a judge, and we need a court order that's going to force you to do this, because obviously you're not taking us serious. And I'm going to sit here tonight and I'm going to ask this council time and time again and again to authorize the attorney to file action in circuit court. That's the only way we're going to light this fire. I mean, right now, you're not even connected to the water and sewer system in the village of New Haven, which I think from the health department standpoint, that's probably not allowed. So I mean, you're right on the main drag. I pass your property probably 20 times a day. And I mean, I know the beauty of that building and how it could look, how it can look. And personally, I don't think you're the man to do it. So I'm gonna ask this council to approve the attorney filing action in circuit court. I'm tired of hearing all, you know, I mean, it's just one excuse after another. I mean, we even got your sister involved a couple years back. We spent probably $10,000 tearing off the rear of your building just to help it look better, and you couldn't find time to just board up the open ends. With that being said, I'm looking for authorization to take this to circuit court.
What was the date of the first citation on this portion of the property?
As opposed to recent?
When did the process start? Where are we at?
I only got my first one just before I came back from from my
So
job.
Yes, sir.
You should have to file on the garage demolition.
I'm looking for.
It's, to partially answer your question, I mean, years ago we were in court over it in regards to seeking demolition, which resulted in a partial demolition. But since then, there has been warning posted.
So for the house portion of it was shortly after that?
Yeah, for the existing stuff where I took on, yeah.
And I just got my
Within the
first,
last year.
I just got my first notice when I talked to the enforcement officer here. I was in Florida at the time working, and I hadn't gotten any of the other notices, and none of them were sent. I periodically stop by my sister's house, and they have my address here to where it needs to be sent. I just got my first notice, and then within a few weeks, within several weeks, I was on a plane, took leave from my job, and came here and started to try to work on the property.
To that effect, the notices are posted. We do in the BSNA software, which is what I use, building.net. We do not have any other address for him. If it's elsewhere, somewhere stored with somebody else in the village, that I don't have record of any other address. I physically post it in a laminate sleeve, stapled at the bottom, upside down, with a zip tie going through it, zip tie to the doorknob. I've done that multiple times.
I don't know what's been happening to him. The only one I got is the one when I came home. It was there.
Mr. President, the instruction were given us back in April of 2018 to start putting the bid package together.
So he was being notified prior to that, and the court tried unsuccessfully to serve him for months.
And if we look to move forward with this, I don't know if the attorney wants to answer, what is the process going forward? What will it look like?
I know that code enforcement had said that the prior order actually covered the entire property. And I have to do a little bit of research on that to make sure that that's true. I believe that's correct, having looked at the order as it came down, but I have to pull the transcript from court to actually find out what the judge said as well. If that is the case, then we already have an order that allows us to demo the property. I would want to seek clarification from the court just in case, so we would take that suit from 2018, do a motion to reinstate the case, and to get an updated order on that, right? A reissued order essentially saying, okay, yeah, we recognize this is still an ongoing issue, and the court reaffirms that you can demolish the whole property. Having said that, if that original order does not cover the whole property, then we'll bring a new suit. It could take about 2 months. Because really, we serve the complaint, he has to have notice and time to answer, and then we can motion. Ideally, for public nuisances, 7 days is the court order that we can motion on that. So I send out a motion, within 7 days of that motion, we can be in front of the judge and get a decision on that motion in order to demolish that day, if the judge is so inclined.
So this will be a motion to demo the property.
Correct. To obey the public nuisance and the purpose on this issue to demo.
Well, is it to demo, or is it a court order to actually do the repairs?
I mean, I would love to see the building brought back to life.
I'd really hate to see the property demolished.
But I guess the motion to demo the property, and I could be out of turn here, you may force Mr. Evanchuk to sell the property to someone who would bring it back to life. Because if he doesn't have the know-how, means, or will to do it, then he needs to move on. Or we would demo the property. But that is not my first request. I mean, I think that building can be restored to a good-looking building.
It's just that at its current rate, it's on decline to the point where it will be uninhabitable and would need to be demolished.
Yeah, if it's not done quickly.
Mr. Kelly, would you recommend that we table this until next month so you can research what is in effect at the court still, or do you recommend that we move forward with authorizing court action for repair.
No, I mean, absolutely, you can go ahead and do that, and then I, in the interim, and it'll only take me a day or two to find out exactly what happened, and then I can go with whatever your recommendation is here tonight. We don't have to wait another month.
Okay, I make a motion that we file in court property 58611 Main Street for repair.
Support. Been properly moved and supported that we file court action against 58611 Main. Any questions on the motion?
So, the motion was to take it to court to repair the property, right? Is that what we're going to court for?
That's going to be our initial intent, that the property be brought up to code and, restored. But if we can't do it, and if there's cause for demolition, then so be it.
Will that be a separate motion in the future to do the demo, or is that part of this motion?
Well, see, I mean, now that we're talking about rehabbing the property, then it's probably going to be a new court action, and as such, you're going to have to file a complaint, and then it's a motion to abate a nuisance again, but it's more an order compelling to do so. It is residential, right? It's not.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I thought. If it's commercial, then we could have a receiver appointed and all that stuff, and that would be faster.
Could I just request that if you guys are going to court, I normally wouldn't request it, but the state of that open southern exposure to the elements, I would request somehow getting access to inspect, make sure there's no water and mold damage. I think that's a concern.
You already know there's a double roof on there.
I'm well aware of that building. I've been in this community all my life. I knew when that addition was put on there.
Has our building inspector ever been in there?
He can't gain access.
I've asked the judge if he would be willing to if he is declined.
It was either the building inspector or the fire marshal was in there. It was several years ago, but I took him all the way through it.
Mr. Kelly, as part of that court motion, can we compel the gentleman to allow the village inspector to go?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if the building inspector goes through and finds that it's in really bad shape.
Okay. Questions of the motion?
So just to clarify again, the vote that we'll be doing right now will be to rehab the property by court order.
Yes, and we can always modify that, right? We can always ask the court to amend our. Absolutely. Yes.
Well, and even if we did the demolish, we'd have to RFP it, wouldn't we? So
yes.
There would have to be another motion even for that.
Yes. But I think the important thing right now is to get in front of it. It's dragging on too long. Questions on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Bridemore?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Hatcher?
He said yes. Sorry.
Trustee McCauley?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger? Yes. President Dilbert?
Yes. Public nuisance, 58855 Main Street, which we commonly refer to as the Seaford House. In my opinion, I've seen some improvements, some cleanup. But I'll let Mr. Vanderbilt come up and give his opinion.
Okay, this one I definitely do not recommend going to work. I've been very impressed. I agreed through a brief driveway, which I did I think a couple of weeks ago. I was not impressed. There was only limited landscaping, which has been expanded. There's actually a fair amount of landscaping done now. That in and of itself, I wouldn't be impressed. With his permission to walk around the property, he's already done stonework on the foundation. He has entirely cleared, which it was just a complete forest there. Access to the ground, the basement exposure. He's cleared that entirely. You can totally get in there. He says he's cleared out the basement, which from line of sight, just from above, without going down there and whatnot, I do see that some stuff's been moved out of there.
Excuse me, I gotta get some air.
There was a pile of cinder blocks that's gone, a large pile of cinder blocks that's gone. There is pea gravel that's been poured next to the southern exposure there. He's moved, he's got glass windows for the basement, taken out. He's given me names of where he's been taking that to. It's a specialty glass place that needs to get them cut and whatnot. I don't know if I mentioned, he has a $21,000 invoice showed to me today from the actual company itself that provided it for trim. Apologize.
I know he turned in multiple
permits, and he turned in
applications today.
2 permits. His garage, shed in the back, he's just by looking in there, he's cleared that out a lot. He's got a dumpster there that's largely full of stuff that is taken out, to my understanding, from the basement, from the shed. Like I said, he's got stonework, a lot. He's given me names of contractors that he's contacted, that he has secured deals with and whatnot. Like I said, I've seen verbal showing the $21,000 one. The building department has confirmed he turned in 2 permits today. He talked to the building inspector. Because all the, because of a little bit of COVID or whatever, I don't like using that as an excuse, but I mean, it has a little bit of truth to it or whatever. Contractors are kind of in short right now, short supply, but he has given me names after names after names, just right off the bat, as we've talked over the phone. He was willing to and came in and initialed the page by page, an agreement of what he's going to accomplish or whatever. I even left a page at the end for him to add additional comments or request any amendments to it or whatever. He chose not to. He signed. He used everything. And I wish I could say more, but a lot of it, I didn't write down each and every contractor that he mentioned or whatever, but he's got a plan. He's already, he's getting it done. He is getting it done. I've been very impressed with what he's doing. And I know, just driving by, you drive by and you go, oh, I don't see anything. It's just a little landscape. You walk around and you go, okay, some stuff's really getting done here. And then you talk to him on the phone, and he's really got some stuff done. And I would at least postpone it 1 more month. I think you'll see a lot of things. I'm impressed. I had extreme doubts. He was ready to ballpark it with Mr. Edmondson. Not at this time.
I would agree with you that we should take no further action on this property right now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Park and Rec appointment, Kristen Store. Somehow this got messed off of, I don't know, maybe May. And she's been working with Park and Rec and she's never formally appointed. So we would like to make that appointment to the Park and Rec of Kristen Store.
Make a motion that we appoint Kristen Store to the Parks and Rec.
Second.
Probably moved and supported that we appoint Kristen Store to the Park and Rec Committee. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The fireworks, because of the uncertainty of the school and the parking lot being done, and we needed to make a deposit by this coming Friday, we have decided to cancel the fireworks show. Because we don't have a firm place to host it. And we had to make a deposit by this coming week in the school's parking lot, still not. And I'm not sure, I don't know when it's going to be. So we had no other alternative. So the fireworks will not take place this year. Item I have asked the Park and Rec chair to form a committee. I get a lot of inquiries about a dog park and about other park activities and whatnot. And I've asked her to put together a committee of a couple of Park and Rec members, a couple private citizens, and I'm going to offer it to a couple trustees that if they would like to participate in this, to explore Park and Rec activities in the village, and to also explore the possibility of that 47 acres becoming a park, or at least part of that 47 acres becoming a park. This will not cost the village any money. So this is out of a courtesy, I'm extending a courtesy. If there's anybody on the council that would like to participate in this activity, exploring park and rec options, please let me know, and I will share the contact information with the park and rec chair so that she can contact you when they finally get together and meet. Any questions on my intent there?
Could you clarify what you meant when you said that it's not going to cost the village any money?
It's just committee.
Oh, just the committee, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, how are we getting a park out of that? It's not going to cost us any money, that's awesome.
Just a committee to explore, see what the residents want. You know, I consistently look at park and rec grants that are being offered by the state, various state agencies, and I see who's getting what for what. And the fact that we haven't designated any additional space for park activity, I can't apply. We can't apply for the grant because we have not designated any other, parcel of land that we park. Okay. I just noticed the city of Inlay City received $150,000 for a splash pad. So I see things like that where there's, I think the DNR was trying to give away something like $28 million this last year and didn't have enough takers. So I think we are short on park space with some 21st century activities. If there was a possibility of expanding the community park in Haven Ridge, I would pursue that, but there's no possibility. The land around the park, the landowners want crazy money for the properties. And I think that part of that 47 acre with the exclusion of the flag that goes into Amherst could be sold off for housing. And of course you got the wetland parcel, but I think there's enough potential open land there that we could make a nice park with a walking trail and soccer field and maybe a splash pad and a nice playground and give the residents some options as to park activities that they can participate in. So this committee is going to meet, get together, and come up with something. I get multiple calls about a dog park. I don't have a dog, so I really don't know what a dog park is, but I keep hearing that term, but I think I know what they are. But there's a lot of inquiry about a dog park. So with that being said, FYI, and as courtesy, I'm extending the opportunity for anybody who wants to participate to let me know. Main Street Railroad Tracks update. We've got to update. They've been out to their inspection.
That's it. I tried to get.
So we don't know what their game plan is, what their timeline is for any repairs on the crossing. I've seen a few of those ugly things that run up and down the tracks. I don't know what they do.
No, they said they repaired it a little bit. I think it was good for one day. I think they had come out like that Monday after we had talked about it at the council meeting, and it was good for a day or two, and it's back right where it was supposed to be. I have contacted them a couple days ago. I have not received anything from them, so I'll keep on them and see what they do for us. Just like anything else with the construction or repair around here, it takes forever to get anybody to do anything. So I'll keep on and see what they can do for us. Try to get that, because it is getting bad. And it's only going to get worse too, so I'll keep on that.
Okay. Nothing on the attorney items. Payment of bills.
I move that we pay the bills in the amount of $212,375.87.
Support.
Properly moved and supported that we pay the bills in the amount of $212,375.87. Question on the motion. Roll, please.
Trustee Spaulding?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes. Sorry.
Trustee Beeson?
Yes.
Trustee Pojek?
Yes.
Trustee Pryborn,
Yeah.
President Zimmer.
Yes. Treasury report. Is, Mr. Robinson?
Asked at $4,738,460.58.
I make a motion to receive and file the treasurer's report.
Support.
It's probably moved and supported that we receive and file the treasury report. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. See the clerk's comment.
So we use the Wayback Machine to go to August 1st.
Yeah. That's obviously wrong. New business, Park and Rec update.
Okay, I'm going to do my best. I can't really hear you guys. I hope you can hear me. Parks and Rec, we had a lot going on as of the last meeting. Slow roll and movies in the park have been a growing success. Our attendance has been going up and up, and everyone's been having a really good time. We did just get approval on the movie screen for the next one, so we will be doing Slow Roll and movies in the park on August 19th at 7 p.m. And this time we will be riding to New Haven Coney. There will be free Coney dogs for the first 40 or 50 riders. We'll get that squared away as soon as possible. And then, of course, there will be other items there for purchase. And then we'll ride back to the community park where we'll be showing Dora and the Lost City of Gold, which is the new movie with live actors. So that'll again be August 19th at 7 p.m. The committee did vote to cancel River Days due to COVID. So that will not be happening this year. Parks and Rec, at the meeting, we did also approve the purchase of a monthly subscription to Zoom to not exceed $40 a month, as we would like to continue broadcasting our meetings. Much like the council meeting, we found that's been going very well. We are almost complete on a trifold flyer, double-sided, that details all of the events coming up for the village through the rest of the year. We've got, some photos of some of the events. We've got all of the events listed. We've got the website on there, contact information. We will be finalizing that design and approving those at the next council meeting. And our plan is to get those flyers out to all of the households in the village and possibly some households in surrounding cities that are close to the village as well. So once we get those approved, we'll get those out to council for everyone to take a look. It's the first time really that I know of that Parks and Rec has done something like this. And I think we think it'll increase our attendance and bring some more insight into what we've got going on in the village. So I think everyone will really like that. And finally, Parks and Rec, at our meeting, we approved the development and rolling out of the Alexa Skill app as was presented to Parks and Rec, as well as council by resident Nick Saka. Currently, that skill is being tested, and we added events and dates to the database as well, just to see how that performs and see how we can continue to get these items out in front of our residents. We meet next Tuesday, 6 p.m. at the council building.
Thank you.
President Dilbert, before we shift to the next subject, with the Zoom subscription that they approved, do we want to see about maybe like a unified village Zoom? Because technically we're still using my personal Zoom account.
We have one already, so I don't know.
We do have a Zoom subscription that
We do.
Okay.
Then maybe we need to.
So then, yeah, maybe we need to get.
We do need to have conversations so we can figure out how to get that to everybody. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Trustee Meissen, that was Parks and Rec's intent as well, that if there was a village subscription or if there wasn't one that we were to then, fire off with, that, we would split that cost or do whatever was the pleasure of council and ourselves.
Sure. Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we can have one.
The Parks and Rec Committee and the activities that they've been hosting have really been fun. They've been doing a good job. Very active, and I'm very happy to say that they are doing a really good job. And they just all seem to be enjoying themselves in what they're doing and participating, and it's been going really well, really well.
In a year where everything has been canceled, it's really nice to have a little bit of normalcy.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like we're one of the few communities that are still doing things, but we're not exceeding 99. Planning committee, I don't know if Mrs. Bonkowski is not with us tonight. Item C, we've already talked about. Item B, this is Pridemore.
Well, I was going to say I was going to fill out an RFP on the Park Street property, but apparently someone's going to discuss cutting the park into it. So when that's done and finalized, I'm going to ask council for permission to have a real estate assessor go out and assess the property to determine a fair market value so we can move whatever portion of it we decide to sell. Right now, some real estate agent has it listed for $350,000, which is it's not going to happen. So once the park committee decides what to do, whatever's left, then I'll do an RFP. But I will be asking council at that point to approve having an assessor go out there. Okay?
This was last 2 years ago, right? When we were entertaining selling it.
Yeah, but I don't think it was a $350,000 figure.
It wasn't, it was 265 or 285.
Well, it's up for 350 and we need to cancel that because it's a pipe dream.
That has expired.
It is not, he still has it active.
Oh, but the contract has expired. I just spoke to him a month ago. He called me. I said, that contract should be signed.
Yeah, he renewed it. It did go expired and then he renewed it independently. It's still up.
Well, he renewed it on his own, but we didn't get a signature from the village.
Then maybe that's something we should pursue again. Yeah.
I will call Robert. Probably before the night's over. Okay. Call from the floor.
It's not a criticism, it is just an observation, it is sincere. I know some of council utilize the email addresses of the Village of New Haven, _mi.gov, gov report, and some don't. And it's to try to formally share information or request information or anything, makes it kind of difficult. I don't care if you guys use them or not, but like, I don't know, let me know or something, because it's hard to, like where I don't know, when I try to share information with everybody or whatever, I don't know which emails to use, the informal ones that are not with that ending or the ones with that ending.
We're all on .gov now.
I know a lot of people, I've been told informally that multiple council members don't use that email. Either get on board or otherwise let me know, because I try to send something out, get everybody aware of everything, and then to find out a couple weeks later, they never got that, so.
Call from the floor. Call from the table.
I just want to make a correction. I just looked at when it expired as of 8/2. So the last time I checked, it was beginning of August.
I have a clue. I had a resident reach out to me asking about lifting of the sidewalk liens along Main Street. They were saying that they that there was a lien against the property for the Main Street sidewalk rehabilitation, and was wanting to know if the liens were going to be lifted. I guess there was, now that they had the grant funding from the village, that was going to make them whole.
I'm sorry, say that again. Sidewalk
Two different projects we did, right?
Yeah, so the resident in the village said that there was a lien placed on their property as part of the sidewalk rehabilitation project, maybe the first phase of it.
Yeah.
We have never attached anything.
No liens?
We have never attached anything.
Okay.
There was two residents that paid in full, and once the next project starts, we had always intended that we were gonna bring it to council to reimburse those two that did pay.
Okay,
But we have never tested them.
okay. Well, that solves that one up very easily then.
So,
And then the other question, I know we had tabled it, but it wasn't on the agenda, and by the time I noticed it was too late to have it added for an action item, but maybe for next month, if we could revisit the hazard pay discussion.
have we gotten any response from the state yet?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay.
Actually, and probably something that I'll ask to be on next month's agenda as well, have some questions about the clarification of the sidewalk maintenance. So I've had 2 residents that have asked for corner lots, what their liability is for the corner bib. And then when I was looking at some other municipalities' ordinances, like Warren, for instance, they have very specific guidelines as to which squares the residents are responsible for. And they also have a cap so that the corner lots aren't assessed more than, I'm not suggesting that we necessarily do that, but I do think it might be worth looking at that ordinance and then even further delving into specifics on responsibility so that it's clear cut, because I personally tried to research it for both residents and it's not clear cut. It just says that at council's discretion, essentially they can flag and then request remediation, but it doesn't say whose responsibility those corner pieces are, if there's a capped amount, what can be done, because then the next question was, can they grind it? Do they have to replace it? Can they lift it and level it? So maybe just something for.
That's a fair point, because the corner, when you have the walkways with the ADA mats, we just replaced a bunch of sidewalk in Decorah Park, and it was quite expensive when you add in those ADA mats.
Sure, and so we had a resident who was paying to do theirs, and that portion is wrong, and so they didn't want to have them come back out if they're not responsible, but I couldn't find anything. And then I have another person actually purchasing, and they wanted clarifications because they're in Warren and they just had to replace, so.
All right. Off on the table?
Next month, I'm going to be bringing up our political sign ordinance. It looks like we might be in violation of federal law because our ordinance specifies content of the sign. So I'm going to ask that we kind of research it. What I did the Gilbert versus Arizona. I did research on that, and I looked at the Supreme Court decision. Our ordinance specifies political signs, the content, and specifies a time frame.
I think, if I remember correctly, I believe we actually updated the sign ordinance. And we made sure that it didn't. That's what I was going to say. I think E-code hasn't caught up or published our updated form.
Yep.
Okay.
The planning committee just did a huge recall of the sign ordinance.
Yeah, because I remember that actually was the big holdup, was making sure that it was constitutional and didn't have any content.
We haven't had anything back yet.
I think council as a whole, I think we had voted on it
Yeah, we did.
last year.
That's what I brought up when you brought it up last month. I said,
Right, but I thought we were waiting for input from the planning commission.
No, E-code, I think E-code just hasn't published it or
From a
something.
year ago. Okay.
But it would be helpful to have that, because I mean, I think that is a referenced ordinance quite often, you know,
Well,
signs.
the residents go on e-code,
Yeah.
and if they read it, it's going to look like they're in violation of federal law.
Yeah.
I have the final draft that we did submit, so.
They're going to count.
It's been submitted to E-code.
Yeah, as far as I know it has, right? But I don't see it
As far as I
in new
know, but
laws either. Usually before
not
they
there.
codify it, it's not in new law. It sits there in new laws as a PDF before they then, and I don't see it there either right now.
And I vaguely remember in the past, didn't we have to like do a package deal or something where we would?
We do it quarterly.
Quarterly?
We do it quarterly, but I've only been doing it for the past year, so I will go back and see if it ever got to them in the first place. So we'll check it out, and make sure that everything's supposed to be.
Yeah, we've had a couple of things done, so it should have been up for a packet to update.
Yeah.
So.
They're up to date as far as I know. So I'll go back and check for sure and see what's going
Not
on.
with the sign ordinance.
Call from the table. I have one item, if everyone else is done. I got an email today from MDOT, their 2021 grant. We did not make the cut on their next category B funding. The same category B that is going North Bradford and the other streets currently. They had 111 applications totaling $18.2 million in requests, and they only have $3 million to give away. So I guess I'm not surprised that we didn't make this cut since we got money in the last year. But of course, we're always encouraged to apply next year.
And what was that one for? What was that one for? What road? Or
I think that would have been,
was that the 27 mile or?
no, that's different. No, that's totally different. That's the federal, that's being, that's being managed by MDOT. This one right here would have taken care of Margot and James Curtin. Okay. I think those are the two roads that we had put in for Margot. Call from the table. Hearing none. Motion in order.
Motion to adjourn. Or
Properly moved and supported that we adjourn.